I've spent over $100,000 of my own money dissecting luxury bags, cutting them open, analyzing every stitch, every layer. Why? Because I had to know what made those bags so expensive.
Imagine dropping 40 grand on a hand-stitched Parisian icon, only to realize the very same bag rolled off a Guangzhou assembly line for less than the price of a weekend getaway. That's the bombshell, a factory insider just unleashed complete, with receipts showing your beloved Birkins true cost clocks in at roughly $2,400. So if the leather, thread, and hardware haven't changed, what exactly are we paying for? A logo, a myth, or a carefully polished illusion the luxury giants? Never expected you to question? Stick around because the story behind that famous orange box is about to get a whole lot messier, and subscribe for more updates. The whistleblower didn't sneak out of a shadowy Paris atelier, he went live on TikTok from a fluorescent-lit factory. On the edge of Guangzhou, machines thrumming behind him and rows of half-finished Birkins drying on steel racks. In 45 breathless seconds, he shattered 3 decades of Hermès folklore. First came the naked math. Togo leather, $450. Filo chinois, beeswax-coated thread, $25. 300 sin-grade ocean-resistant hardware, $150. Premium edge paint, $50. Lambskin lining, $100. Skilled labor, $600. Packaging, 10 grand total, $1,400. He held up the spreadsheet like a magician exposing his own trick, then zoomed in on boxes marked for EU final assembly, hinting at the loophole that lets a Chinese-made shell become made in France after a quick finishing stitch in Paris. Within hours, the clip rocketed past 2 million views. By breakfast the next day, every fashion subreddit, luxury gossip channel, and reseller Discord was detonating. Influencers filmed tear-down shorts, zooming in on edgecoat thickness, stitch cadence, and micro-engraved hardware fonts, swearing they matched pieces bought at flagship stores. One ex-Hermès sales associate admitted in comments that boutiques sometimes receive pallets labeled samples, only to unbox fully priced inventory weeks later. Collectors compared serial numbers, resale sites flagged sudden surges in listings, and hashtag Birkingate began trending in 6 languages. Hermès's legal team moved just as fast, firing off takedown notices and reportedly threatening the whistleblower with breach of contract suits. But the Streisand effect kicked in. Mirror uploads sprouted faster than platforms could respond, spawning reaction duets, multilingual subtitles, and fresh conspiracy threads. Counterfeit watchdogs issued frantic PSAs warning that factory direct ads flooding social feeds were still knockoffs. Yet curiosity clicks kept climbing. Mainstream business outlets smelled blood. Anchors framed the story as luxuries. Volkswagen moment. A credibility crisis money alone might not fix. What started as a single flash of guerrilla transparency was mutating into a global probe, with investors, loyal collectors, and curious onlookers all demanding receipts, literal and figurative. The question echoing through every comment section was simple. If the brand's most sacred icon isn't what it claims, what else is hiding behind those gilded boutique doors? Deep inside Building 3 of a sprawling Guangzhou industrial park, the real Birkin balance sheet reads less like haute couture and more like algebra. 1 hide of pebble-grained Togo leather, $450. A spool of filo chinois, waxed linen thread, $25. Marine-grade 316 stainless steel locks and feet, $150. Edge ceiling paint flown in from Bologna, $50. Supple lambskin lining shipped from Limoges, $100. 30 hours of veterans. Bench work paid at $20 an hour, $600. Branded dust bag, box, tissue, and care booklet, $10. Add freight, quality inspection, and factory overhead, and the complete unit cost hovers around $1,400, a tiny fraction of the $40,000 price tag flaunted on boutique shelves from Paris to Dubai. Where, then, does the other $38,000 vanish? Into a carefully manufactured aura of scarcity and story. Hermès deliberately rationed inventory, converting Birkins into royal favors bestowed upon only the most profitable clientele. Sales associates whisper about purchase history, relationship points, and secret phone calls that decide who earns the privilege to spend. Economists label the cycle the Veblen effect. Demand climbs as price skyrockets because buyers are really purchasing public proof of status. Auction houses fuel the frenzy, broadcasting single-owner records that smash 6 figures, while fashion editors gush that the bag is harder to obtain than a supercar. Influencer unboxings, drenched in warm golden light, flood TikTok feeds, each delayed gratification gasp reinforcing the myth that waiting equals worth. Restriction becomes desire, and desire effortlessly justifies the price. Here, cost dissolves, and the customer walks away wearing pure narrative. Strip away that romance, and the Birkin skeleton resembles any globally sourced product built where labor is expert and margins forgiving. Italian and German tanneries ship hides worldwide. French thread and Swiss zippers follow the same route. Chinese artisans assemble the puzzle with speed that belies their precision. European Union origin rules provide the final sleight of hand. If substantial transformation occurs inside the block, a quick finishing stitch in lion, a lock engraved in Pantin, the house may legally stamp made in France even when 95% of labor costs were logged elsewhere. Most shoppers never read beyond the swing tag, and Hermès has no incentive to clarify. That gray zone between legality and perception is where luxury profits thrive, and where the current backlash now threatens to pull the seams apart for good. By sunrise on day 2, whispers had erupted into full-scale panic, shaking the polished floors of luxury retail. Panic needed only 48 hours to leap from TikTok screens into Hermès boutiques. In New York, Dubai, and Seoul, lifelong VIP clients who had waited months for the call abruptly declined pickup, photographing the sealed orange boxes and tagging Joller Birkin Gate as proof of their revolt. Consignment giants such as The Real and Vestiaire Collective registered a 60% spike in Birkin listings overnight, while veteran flippers slashed prices by 20% to escape before a perceived collapse. Authentication teams scrambled, unsure whether they were protecting collectors from counterfeits or protecting the brand from itself. Then came the lawyers. A California class action lawsuit accused Hermès of deceptive country of origin labeling and of anti-competitive pay-to-play tactics that forced shoppers to buy scarves and jewelry merely to qualify for a Birkin. The filing demanded refunds and punitive damages large enough to prise open Hermès's production ledgers. Analysts ran grim models, warning that even a modest 5% dip in demand could vaporize $3 billion in market capitalization. Small, on Wall Street, existential for a family-controlled house that trades on mystique more than margin. Sensing an opening, rivals pounce. Louis Vuitton launched a microsite titled Crafted Where We Create, complete with factory maps and artisan interviews. Gucci resurfaced grainy 1970s Tuscan atelier footage under the banner Still Italian Always. Indie upstarts live-streamed workshops, touting blockchain-verified supply chains and QR code authenticity chips. Each post harvested clicks from Hermès's silence, turning the scandal into a spectator sport for millions of doom-scrolling fashion fans. Yet outrage alone did not fuel the stampede. Cold economics did. Collectors recalculated whether their 40-grand accessories might morph into fashion's next Beanie Baby. Auction houses trimmed catalog estimates, boutique associates whispered about shrinking VIP waitlists, and TikTok investors posted, "Should I sell?" polls. The Birkin's once rock-solid reputation for appreciation tottered on a single hashtag. Fear, not ethics, became the accelerant, and the blaze kept spreading. But the fire still lacked one volatile ingredient: geopolitics. A fresh tariff war was brewing beyond the boutiques, and the next spark threatened to ignite a luxury meltdown. No logo could disguise one capable of redefining prestige for an entire generation. Meanwhile, beyond the boutiques, a bigger fuse was burning. Only a week before the TikTok leak, President Trump slapped a 145% tariff hike on new Chinese imports. Beijing analysts called it brinkmanship. Social media sleuths called it motive. Almost overnight, pro-China accounts boosted the whistleblower clips, rocketing them up TikTok For You feed and turning a niche supply chain gripe into global front-page drama. Washington pundits seized on the timing, arguing the algorithmic pile-on looked like soft retaliation meant to rile Western shoppers against European labels that profit from Chinese labor. The irony? Hermès could end up collateral damage in a trade war it never joined. If Guangzhou plants suddenly face embargoes, material costs will surge, delivery windows will stretch, and that $400 baseline could double before a single bag ships. Investors fear a vicious circle. Price hikes erode demand, shrinking volumes force still higher prices, and the mystique of accessibility through scarcity collapses into plain unaffordability. Luxury, once insulated from macro politics, now dangles between capitals wielding tariffs like tactical nuke. Collectors glued to resale apps refresh hourly, watching price graphs slide like cryptocurrency in free fall. Paris lobbyists are already pleading in Brussels, warning that retaliatory duties could gut the final assembly ateliers that justify "Made in France." In Beijing, state media frames the uproar as proof Western brands profit from Chinese hands while slandering Chinese quality. For Birkin loyalists, the real question is no longer, where was my bag made, but will my next bag even exist? While tariff threats loom overhead, the courtroom battle lines are already etched, in sharper relief than any artisan stitch. A coalition of New York and California law firms just filed a multi-state consumer fraud suit that could force Hermès to open its complete production ledger, supplier invoices, shipping manifests, labor contracts, everything. If a judge rules that substantial transformation never happened in France, every Birkin sold with that claim becomes potential evidence of false advertising. Corporate compliance officers warn the penalty could include triple damages, mandatory origin relabeling, and federally supervised audits stretching years. Wall Street, once charmed by Hermès's bulletproof brand equity, abruptly downgraded. Its stock, $48 billion in market value, evaporated in a single afternoon after CNBC's graphic screamed, "Birkin risk factor unknown." The dominoes continue. Luxury insurance providers are reassessing loss of value policies for high-end items, fearing an authentication crisis they cannot price. Meanwhile, Swiss-based authentication platform Entropy reports a backlog 10 times normal volume. Appraisers must now differentiate between OEM legitimate and gray market identical, a distinction that exists more in legal doctrine than in leather grain. Resellers caught in the squeeze are holding flash sales, hoping cash today is safer than brand prestige tomorrow. Even rival Maisons sense contagion. Internal memos at Chanel instruct sales staff to proactively address origin questions before the gossip reaches cash. With regulators circling and trust thinning by the hour, the once untouchable world of ultra-luxury now feels strangely, precariously mortal, and collectors wonder if tomorrow's icon will simply be today's cautionary relic. Luxury's invisible. Seams are ripping in broad daylight, and every maison that once wrapped itself in mystique is scrambling to stitch its narrative back together before the lining spills over social feeds. Emergency meetings titled Radical Transparency have taken over calendars from Paris to Milan. Directors debate sewing QR codes into pocket linings, releasing blockchain ledgers for every hide, and installing 24-hour live streams here, cameras inside workshops previously shown only to VIP travelers. The goal is blunt. Replace secrecy with proof before the internet finishes rewriting the story for them. Inside boutiques, sales associates rehearse fresh scripts. Yesterday's breathless ode to French artisanship has morphed into a confident salute to global craft networks, a phrase designed to make Guangzhou cutters sound symphonic beside Pantene engravers. Promotional reels now splice Chinese leatherworkers, Italian tanners, and French polishers into a single ballet of hands, reframing diversity as deliberate design rather than cost arbitrage. Early shoppers applaud, insisting heritage means nothing without honesty, while skeptics roll their eyes, calling the pivot damage control in couture silk. Shareholders and activists, strange bedfellows, suddenly agree that provenance equals profit. Investment banks model a 10% defection by ultra-luxury buyers toward verification-first newcomers and calculate €4 billion in annual margin evaporating across the sector. Insurance underwriters tack reputation exposure, surcharges onto brand asset policies, warning premiums will soar unless origin audits become routine. Climate watchdogs pile on, mapping cross-continental leather journeys and proclaiming the Birkin, the most jet-lagged bag on Earth, an indictment that sticks in eco-conscious feeds and brokerage notes alike. Even celebrity endorsements feel the tremor. Stylists now demand digital origin passports before a red carpet reveal, terrified a mislabeled purse could turn a glamour shot into an internet punchline. Influencers who once queued 18 months for a Birkin upload defiant reels pledging loyalty to artisans who literally sign their work. In this post-Birkingate era, one truth crystallizes. Secrecy has flipped from asset to liability. Brands unwilling to operate inside a glass box may watch prestige and decades of margin unravel in real time. And in luxury, nothing depreciates faster than confidence once the stitching of myth comes undone for consumers. Forget embossing and gold-plated locks. The next currency of prestige is transparency, permanently recorded on a public ledger. Picture a Birkin's origin passport displayed on a boutique wall, a scannable QR code revealing GPS-tagged hides from Tuscany, edge paint mixed in Bologna, and stitching footage streamed live from Guangzhou. Consumers, scorched by Birkingate, will demand nothing less. Early adopters are already rewriting house. Delvaux publishes weekly factory vlogs. Moynat embeds microchips under bag lining. Startup Atelier Open Air lets buyers vote on sourcing options and audits. These moves are not gimmicks. They're defensive walls against future exposés. Analysts predict brands providing chain-of-custody proof could capture 15% of ex-Hermès clientele within 2 years, siphoning billions in discretionary spend. Meanwhile, governments edge toward mandates. The EU is drafting digital product passport legislation that would force traceability for all high-value goods by 2028. In Washington, bipartisan senators cite the Birkin scandal while pitching the truth in Labeling Act 2.0. Compliance costs will crush laggards, accelerating a Darwinian shakeout across the handbag hierarchy. For loyalists, this shift offers both relief and risk. Verified provenance might restore confidence and buoy resale values, but it could also expose uncomfortable labor realities, prompting new ethical boycotts and pricing debates. Either way, the luxury myth has cracked wide open. So pause before your next swipe. Would you still pay 40 grand knowing every secret ingredient and every unseen pair of hands? Maybe transparency is priceless, or perhaps it finally assigns a fair market true value.